Okay. I'm just going to pull this off here because I'm too short and you probably can't hear me. All right, so hello and welcome to our second annual Dementia Friendly Conference here in Indiana. Yay! Okay, so we have to really stay on task today, so you'll see us reading a lot of our notes. We'll try not to veer off from that. We have so many developments over the past year in Bloomington area that we cannot wait to tell you about them. But first, a few housekeeping items. Restrooms are located through both those doors. Refreshments and beverages are on the table over here. Please feel free to find time to wander around when you're able and take a look at the free resource table and the information over here. You should have received a name tag and a folder when you came in. If you do not have these items, they're located at our registration table. There's an agenda in your folders today. If you'd like to reference them on the activities throughout the day, you can take a look there. If you take a look around, some of us are here from the community. Some are visiting to see what Dementia Friendly is about. And some of us here are individuals who are living with dementia. Please consider speaking clearly and giving them time for response with everyone at your table during the group events this afternoon. Please consider the noise level when we are having discussion groups today. We have provided a quiet room for those who might need it at any time during the conference, and that room is located down this hallway on the right. And a box lunch will be provided today for you around noon. That is provided by Trilogy, and thank you so much. Those were an awful lot of box lunches. Let's see if I can figure out how to turn this on now. Okay. So there are so many sponsors, I could barely put them on the page, and everyone really worked together to help out. Thank you to all of our contributors of this conference today. If we can give them a big round of applause. Okay. Local art from individuals living with dementia is shown in the art exhibit room, which is down this hall through these doors. On your left-hand side, you can see them. Our local artists have a great impact in our community, and they have provided different types of art, from painting to storytelling to poems and much more. So you'll get to enjoy that today as well. The Music and Memory program has made a great impact in the lives of families and students. Professor Jenny Gubner of ethnomusicology at IU, I hope I said that right, has done a wonderful job working with the students, families to create connection through music. You can view the moments captured during the program in the art exhibit as well. Shannon Townsend has captured beautiful images of an individual living with dementia. This has been a passion of hers for years. Shannon is here with us today if you would like to ask her about her work. John Wood, a comic artist living with dementia who was not able to attend this year, has sent art from various places from individuals living with dementia as well. John is a big part of advocating for people living with dementia and serves on the Dementia Action Alliance board. He lives in Michigan with his wife and his young daughter. John attended the conference last year, and he will be greatly missed at this conference this year, but we are very thankful and truly honored to have his art and his advocacy. The art exhibit will be open until 3:45 today so that you can enjoy. Thank you to everyone who contributed art. We appreciate it. Whoa. Too far, sorry. Okay. So last year on May 4th, we had our first dementia-friendly workshop. We did not know what to expect. We, individuals with similar interests and experiences with dementia, gathered for meetings to see how we could work towards ways to improve the outlook, communication, care, and understanding of living life with dementia. Many of us know the term dementia is an umbrella term for several different types, Alzheimer's disease being one of the most common types of dementia. We also know that the stigma related to the disease has a huge impact on all of us. So from that in-depth conversation about how we feel about the stigma and the disease, We decided we needed to get together in the community to work on solutions. We had a great response from the community last year. Many individuals attended from different sectors and have continued meeting over the past year. That's amazing. Our mayor and city officials have also felt this issue is very important, and the city of Bloomington received a proclamation giving notice that Bloomington is the first dementia-friendly city in Indiana. And at this time, I would like to welcome Beverly Callender Anderson. She is here with a message from the city of Bloomington today. And I won't time her, but I will you.
It's okay, I'll be quick. Good morning. I bring you all greetings from Mayor John Hamilton, and he has sent a proclamation today. But I do want to say, outside of the proclamation, that our department, Community and Family Resources, is now a dementia-friendly department. We went through the training. And so everyone on our staff has been trained, and so I'm very proud of that. But from Mayor Hamilton, whereas over the past 2 decades, the number of Americans living with dementia has seen a significant increase. Today, an estimated 5.7 million Americans suffer from Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. That number is projected to rise to nearly 14 million by 2050. And whereas dementia is not a specific disease, the term describes a variety of symptoms associated with a decline in memory or other cognizant skills. Many dementias are progressive, starting out slowly and gradually getting worse. And whereas in 2016, the city of Bloomington was recognized as a dementia-friendly city by Dementia Friendly America, the designation reflects Bloomington's continued efforts to improve the quality of life for individuals with dementia, their families, and caregivers. And whereas Bloomington is committed to being a vibrant place to retire and age with dignity, and was the first city in Indiana to hold a community-wide dementia training workshop with DFA, and whereas since that workshop, a number of local communities have formed to generate awareness about dementia and find ways to meet the changing needs of our aging population. A couple more whereases. And whereas many of these initiatives involve working with healthcare and social service agencies and the city's Commission on Aging. The commission was established in 2009 and is focused on helping all individuals in Bloomington maintain their health and independence in later life. And whereas working together, we can end the stigma that is often associated with dementia and support those who suffer from memory loss and their caregivers. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of John Hamilton, Mayor of Bloomington, Indiana, do hereby proclaim Bloomington as a dementia-friendly city in 2018.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. I have so much appreciation for all those who have donated their time to make a difference. I cannot name them all because there are so many. If you have been involved in the dementia-friendly efforts, please stand so that we can give you a round of applause. Come on! See how many there are? Today, we will hear from the directors and facilitators of these groups on the efforts they have been working towards. Please know that you can visit the committee sign-up table if you would also like to be involved according to your interest as these speakers come up and talk about what they have worked on over the past year. And we'll go ahead. We have a website as well, so we're going to bring up that website. WTIU has been really involved in helping with the dementia-friendly efforts. They have sat on committees, and they have given wonderful support. Today you will notice that we will be using the new dementia-friendly website that was created for our community by WTIU. You can access this website for updates on these committees and what they are doing for the efforts in our area. The website will be managed by volunteers and community members. We will go to the new website now, and the first person will tell us a little more about some of the efforts. This first person will be Christy McBride. Christy is the director of the Hoosier Hills High School Career Center. Hoosier Hills Career Center. Okay. High school students come to this career center from Greene, Monroe, Owen, and Morgan counties, and she's here today to tell us a little bit about the Dementia-Friendly Care Partner Development Program. That's a long name. Come on.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of this day with you. I want to share just a little bit about what we have done at Hoosier Hills Career Center. So this year, we had a conversation with Amanda and Dana and decided that our health science education students who are being trained to take care of current and our next generation of clientele needed to understand, oh, there's a cute little picture, Bailey, needed to understand more about dementia. So this year, Dana and Amanda came in and instructed our students in a 20-hour certification that was the first of its kind in the state of Indiana. So our students were able to complete a dementia-friendly caregiver certification. They also, by the grace of those at Jill's house, were able to go and work with their clients and understand what care plans might look like, how to take in some histories, and really go through that process. We had 29 students total trained, along with, were there 8 outside community folks who came in? 6 or 8? Oh, there were around 13, see? So we'll just go with over 40 folks that were trained. Our goals at the Career Center involve service. Part of that service is to our students, one of whom is sitting in our audience today, a former student. Our service is also to their families. And then last but certainly not least, it's to the community. We feel very strongly that it is important for our students to understand how to give back, how to involve themselves and become engaged in the community, and what needs and activities that they can be a part of. So, bringing that dementia-friendly caregiver certification to our students, we realized that not only was that important here in Monroe County, but to the other counties that we serve. So yes, students from other counties received that certification. So we wrote this little grant from the Department of Workforce Development, and okay, it was $1.2 million. So we wrote and got this little grant, and thank you. Anyway, going forward, that will allow us the opportunity to bring national speakers to help with a training this summer. That training is going to allow 4 different career centers, a total of 8 or 9, 8, she's telling me 8, instructors from across 4 career centers reaching 11 counties to also be able to be trained in the dementia-friendly caregiver certification so they can go forth and train their students. Our numbers over the next 2 years will be close to 700 students that will be trained to be dementia-friendly caregivers. So there's the round of applause. We are super excited about those metrics. Not only are we working with the high school students to gain that certification and then their instructors, but we are excited that we have TIPA Snow Positive Approach to Care folks coming in July 9th. And our partners, some of whom you saw on the screen earlier, will be able to also bring in their folks to have a one-day training free of charge to them because of the grace of this grant. They can actually come to all 3 days if they want. We can host 45 folks. So again, it's another way to serve the community, to make sure that the young folks, the older folks, whoever's in there that wants to know more about it has an opportunity to truly be able to serve and give back. So we are super excited about that. I've probably hit my 5-minute limit, but I can just tell you that had it not been for a meeting that took place with Amanda and myself and another person who just kind of stuck us together, we would have not had such a wonderful partnership. And I am so happy to be a part of helping Bloomington, Monroe County, and this entire region to be dementia friendly. So thank you so much.
At this time, I'm just going to allow you guys to come in and filter through, introduce yourself, and what you've been working on with your committees. Okay?
Thank you. My name is Paige Freitag, and I am an elder law attorney here in Bloomington, and I am a member of the Legal and Finance Committee. Is that the official name? I can't remember what we decided. We talked about that for a long time, trying to come up with a catchy name. So if we can click on legal and financial. Okay. Okay. So we really had two main projects that we worked on since last year's initial workshop. And the first project was to create a resource tool for families to use, certainly when there has been a dementia diagnosis, but ideally, this tool would get into the hands of everyone in our community well before that. We want to get information out there well in advance of any diagnosis of any kind. We understand the just overwhelming nature of having these diagnoses, so much to think about, so much to deal with. So if you can help us all try to educate people prior to that, to think about estate planning, financial planning before then, hopefully that would maybe be one less task that needs to be handled. So we created a brochure, and these brochures are available at the free resource table. The brochure covers a variety of topics. And the brochure copy has been replicated on the website. So everything that appears in the brochure is available on the website. We struggled a bit, as you can imagine, with brochures of this nature. You have to figure out what's most important, how much detail do you go into. But I think we ended up with a pretty good balance, providing some core information, mostly important legal documents to have in place, a basic explanation of guardianship, questions for your financial advisors, some information about veterans benefits. Mary Elfman, who's our county Veterans Resource Officer, has been involved with us and helped with that. And then a really brief section about Medicare versus Medicaid. So all of these are incredibly complex topics, but our goal, again, was to put these primary issues at the forefront. And so we have these brochures. Our next goal is to get them distributed into the community. We do have packets of 50 brochures available. We would love it. Brent is holding up a packet. We would love it for sure if you are affiliated with any organization in particular and would like to take a few packets. Wonderful, but we need to track where they're going. So we will be putting together a sheet of where we want them to end up. At the table. The sign-up sheet is at the table, and the packets are right behind the table in a box. But we'll be putting together a sheet, doctors' offices, pharmacies, the library, all these sort of common places that we hope people will grab them, but we need to track that. So feel free to take them, but please give us your contact information if you do take them and let us know where you intend to distribute them. Amanda mentioned WTIU earlier. I have to give a huge thanks to Emmy Beltray. He's not here today, but he volunteered his time. He's employed by WTIU, and we gave him the copy, and he designed and created the brochure for us. So thank you very much, Emmy. So that's the brochure. Please feel free to take them and distribute them. And then our second goal was this, the website. And again, a key person at WTIU that created and designed the website is Aoban Binder. And Brent Molnar, who's on our committee here today, connected us with these wonderful volunteers, and they have just been instrumental, and we really appreciate their work. So now we have this website that is live today for the first time, that everyone can go to for information about the dementia-friendly Bloomington efforts. I don't know if Amanda will cover it, but I'll just note some of the features before I sit down. If we scroll up to the top of the website, so first of all, there's a Listen to Post tab that if it's overwhelming or you have difficulty reading, you just click on those and it will have audio of everything that is listed. I'm not a tech person and I'd never seen that before, so I thought that was really brilliant. And then further up, I believe, you can do the larger print or the smaller print. So Aoban did all of that as part of his work for us, and we really appreciate it. We would love to have new members of our committee. You don't have to be a lawyer or a financial advisor to join us. So please consider if you're wanting to get more involved. Thank you.
Okay, I stuck my words up here earlier. Let's see if I can find them. Okay. My name is Dana Thompson. I'm one of the Alzheimer's educators at the Alzheimer's Resource Service, along with Amanda. And this is Chris Jackson from the Monroe County Public Library, who has just been an amazing, amazing partner for us. So we have been working with the Public Spaces Committee, which is our next tab down right there. Following last year's conference here, there were actually two groups that were formed. So there was a Public Spaces group and a Commerce and Marketplace group that came out of that. And initially, those groups were meeting separately, and we very quickly found out that they had a lot of overlapping ideas and initiatives, and so we decided to come together to form one big Public Spaces group that covers all of that area. The vision of that group is to make Bloomington's places and spaces more accessible, supportive, and user-friendly for people living with dementia and their care partners. Prior to last year's conference, there was already a dementia-friendly business training, as many of you know, here in town that was launched by the Alzheimer's Resource Service and Home Instead. So this new Public Spaces group helped to refine that training and grow that with the help of IU and many other people. And there are currently over 20 trained businesses and organizations in Bloomington mostly that have completed that certification course. So that's pretty exciting. We've had everything from churches to theater groups to stores to restaurants, just a real variety of places. The library, of course. What the Public Spaces group has also been working on since last year is developing a level 2 certification process for organizations that want to do even more than that basic training. So the Monroe County Public Library had agreed to be our pilot site for that opportunity, and they currently hold the distinction of being the first dementia-friendly organization to reach the level 2 certification. So I'm gonna let Chris tell you guys about that.
Thanks, Dana. I am Chris Jackson with Monroe County Public Library. Last year, around this time, when many of us were in this room, it was a good time for the library to be thinking about this because we were embarking on a new strategic plan. So this was a community listening experience for me, and we held many other community listening events. And all of these shaped our new plan, which emphasizes equitable access to library services and updated values that include accessibility, inclusiveness, and lifelong learning. So I jumped at the chance to partner with Dana and IU Health Bloomington, the Alzheimer's Resource Service, in terms of making sure that the library was able to live up to those values of accessibility and inclusiveness. So we did the first part, which was staff training. We have now well over 50% of our staff trained in dementia-friendly awareness, understanding the disease, the progression, the communication issues, the vision issues that go along with it. And that was a great first step for us. But we still weren't sure that our buildings and services were going to live up to our goals. So we pioneered, Dana and Amanda pioneered, and we followed along with a way to really evaluate the services in addition to training our staff. So Dana arranged for a walkthrough of the library with a person living with dementia and their caregiver, and they wrote up a list of things that worked well for them and things that needed improvement. This was the sort of thing that's really hard for us to see. We're there every day. We know where everything is. We assume that people will figure things out, but oftentimes there are barriers for anyone using a public space, and for somebody living with dementia, those barriers can become magnified. So from that walkthrough, we came up with a list of things that we can change, most of which are pretty tangible and relatively inexpensive. For example, making it easier to locate our restrooms by changing our signage, making it clear that there are restrooms that a caregiver that may not be the same gender can use with somebody. That's something we had designed for children and parents, but hadn't really considered elders, but we're able to use those same restrooms for both purposes. A map that shows where all the service points and collections are in the library, also something that seems obvious, but we hadn't really considered recently. And ways to identify staff when they're away from a desk, which is a challenge. We often need to find somebody to show us where something is, and our staff are not always easily recognizable. And finally, one I'm not sure how, we have step stools all over the library so that you can get up to the tall shelves. They're an accessibility aid, but the walkthrough also indicated that they're a barrier too. They're a tripping hazard, so I'm still not sure what we're going to do about those, but we're working on it. It was a great experience for me. I'm now training some other businesses on dementia-friendly awareness, and I'm hoping other businesses will be able to take, in public spaces, take what we learned at the library and do a walkthrough with individuals living with dementia and identify those barriers that we wouldn't otherwise see.
I would like to also say on there, if anybody is looking for the information to go through the dementia-friendly training, it is located on this website so that you can find it, as well as the locations and organizations who have went through the training are listed on there as well. Okay?
We're not next on the list. Good morning. My name is Jan Bays. I'm a member of the Dementia Friendly Bloomington Founders Group, and I'm very, very proud of that. It's so wonderful to see all of you here today. I'm also the Director of Program Development and Education at Jill's House. Last year, I was privileged to be a facilitator for the transportation group. Now, this has opened a whole new world for me, and I have learned so much from those who have joined us, and worked on our work group throughout the year because I know nothing about transportation. So, the vision statement, our goal for the transportation work group is that a dementia-friendly community will have safe, reliable, and affordable transportation. The objectives were safety, reliability, and affordability. Our group decided to work on safety and reliability, and we did this by pursuing two really, really interesting projects. The first thing that we worked on was coming up with a list of the providers of transportation in the community, and coming up with that list, and our goal is to contact all of those people and find out if they are willing and able to serve people living with dementia, and what kind of education that they have to prepare them to do this. We're going to find out if those people have gone through our dementia-friendly business training, and if not, offer to provide that for them. That project is still in the works. Our other really exciting project has to do with the client manifest. Our group was very, very fortunate last year because we had a visitor, John Wood, who is a gentleman living with dementia who lives in Detroit. And as we were talking about transportation, he brought in a whole different perspective because he navigates Detroit on his own. And he showed us a tool that he used that he calls a client manifest. When our group saw this, we decided this would be a really, really important, useful tool for us to develop for Bloomington. And so we have been working on customizing this for our use in our community, and we are about to offer a pilot project for some people to try this out. Lauren has the manifest, and we'll show it to you. She also, this is Lauren Cowan, please, she's part of our committee and a lot of other committees also, but talk with her and find out a little about the survey and about the pilot project. We also have opportunities to sign up for either the pilot project or to join us on the transportation committee at the sign-up table. I want to tell you a little bit about this client manifest, though, because it's really an interesting, simple tool. It uses a quarterback play wristband, which I had never heard of before. As I told you, I learned a lot. And inside that wristband, on one side is listed emergency information that a person might need to access when they were traveling the community on their own, or if they needed help. And then on the others, and that stays the same all the time. And then on the other side is a spot where you would write out your itinerary for the day. For instance, Mary Jo is going to meet me at home at 9 o'clock. We're going to go to Starbucks for coffee. We'll be there at 9:30, and then we're going to a 10 o'clock. You would just put of course, the words. 10 o'clock, we're going to a doctor's appointment, lunch, home again, so that you would have that list to refer to as you're going through your itinerary for the day. This tool has many, many different levels of application. It could be a tool for a person to use if they were going to go out into the community on their own, if they were using transportation and needed to refer to when I'm going to be picked up and where I'm going to be picked up, if they were at the doctor's office and they needed to get some help, they would have that information handy. It's such a security thing. If you have a memory loss problem, and you want to go out in the community, but you're fearful that you won't know the next step, here you have a tool that gives you the security to have that information with you. So it's something that someone can use to navigate the community on their own. You could use it to navigate the community with a care partner, because it would give me a sense of independence if I had that information myself, if my short-term memory was lacking sometimes, and I wouldn't have to ask about this information all the time. There again, that helps me with security and with independence. Or I think you could even use this tool just to keep track of yourself during the day. So those are the two projects that we've been working on with our transportation group. Lauren has some examples here that are in the beginning phases. Please, we're looking for volunteers to try this out, and we also are looking for more people to join us on our committee. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Lauren Cowan. I felt like a display model there, but I am on the Dementia Friendly Bloomington subcommittee. Last year at the conference, a group formed for first responders. And like Well, like the public spaces, thank you very much. Our efforts were duplicated by a couple of other subgroups. So First Responders has been working with both transportation and healthcare and social services. And we are working on, and Heather will tell you more about the efforts for the programs that healthcare and social services are working on. I just wanted to reiterate the client manifest. What was really interesting for me to learn from John Wood, who told us about this, was his main purpose for creating this for himself was he was very aware of how many times a day he would ask his caregiver the same question. And this kind of gave him an opportunity to take a little bit more control over his own life and know what his schedule was for the day so that he didn't have to ask so many questions of his caregiver. And that was a huge benefit for him. So I do have the manifest here. I am wearing the small one. You flip it open. One of the things also that he said, he wanted something, he's a comic book artist, and he didn't want his personal information on the front of the manifest because if he's sitting on the bus, somebody can read his information. So he has this incredible graphic of a comic book on the front of his. I have a picture of a very cute dog. Yeah, and then you open it up, and there is information about you, and as Jan mentioned, your schedule for the day. So this part can be filled out by hand, it can be filled out through the computer, you can fill it out yourself, your caregiver can fill it out. It's very flexible, and as Jan mentioned, we are looking for candidates for our pilot program. We will sit down and explain the manifest, but more importantly, we will let people go through their day with this and let us know how it's working for them and what needs to be changed and tweaked to make it most successful. Thank you.
As often is the case, the two people who work the hardest don't work anything into the schedule to give a shout out to them. So if we could give a shout out to Dana Thompson and Amanda Mosier for all of their work. Louder, longer. Woo! I mean, really, how amazing all of the things that are happening. It's just so exciting. Well, my name is Heather Kinderthane. I'm a social worker at Jill's House. I am a part-time member of the Founders Club, and I have been helping out the Healthcare and Social Service group. We started meeting in, was it November? November. We meet the fourth Thursday of every month at Need More Coffee at 8 a.m. We would love for you to join us. It's mostly small business owners. And so we would love to have someone who's part of a big business that has the capability of making amazing brochures and join us for that. So as you can see, our goal is to identify gaps in medical and social service systems. So when we looked at our medical care, we realized just how broken it was and gave up and hijacked the First Responders Committee. And so we thought that was a little bit easier to tackle. So we've been working on that. So if you scroll down, so right now we're working on just looking at some of the systems we already have in place and strengthening those. Kathleen Engel-Weber helped create a flyer about Smart 911. So those of you who are not familiar with that, there are flyers over at the table. And so our next step with that is working on trying to find out if we can have people available to help sign people up for Smart 911. And so that is an online service. You give information about yourself so that if there is an emergency, the first responders will be more prepared with information to help you. And that ties into the Silver Alert system. So I'm not going to read all that, and we're already over on time. So what I will say is that our next goal, Teepa Snow says that having a little dementia is like being a little pregnant. And so So similar to what the finance group worked on with their brochure, we would really like to develop a tool that will help people when they are first diagnosed, something that would supplement what the financial committee did. So we're going to look at that and not duplicate that. So what we're finding is when you talk to people living with dementia, oftentimes that initial diagnosis is very harsh, and that there's not any follow-up, and then they just feel frightened and alone. And so what we'd like to do is develop a tool that can, to help people. And again, we would love to have you join our committee. The coffee is really good there.
Oh, thank you to everyone who has been helping over this past year on all these different committees. You have done a wonderful job. You are making a great impact in our community. Often I hear a lot of people who are saying, I ran into this person and they were talking about this. It's you guys. You guys are doing wonderful on the committees, so we appreciate all of you. So now we're going to move on to the Community Dementia Alliance and our panel. I want to introduce you to them, but before we do, we will watch this brief video that is very inspiring as our panel makes way to the stage.
When the doctor told me I had Alzheimer's, it felt like the wind had been knocked out of me.
Although my neurologist showed genuine compassion when I was told of my diagnosis, I was given a prescription and told to come back in 6 months, nothing more.
8 physicians and 18 months until I was finally diagnosed by my current neurologist.
Without compassion, my doctor just handed me a 12-page report.
He said, get your affairs in order. No support, just fear.
When I received my diagnosis, I felt abandoned. There is a widespread misperception that nothing can be done for individuals when diagnosed with dementia. In fact, a more positive experience can be achieved when given a diagnosis. Empower, enable, and encourage.
It was devastating to hear the neurologist tell me, you do know your brain is going to hell in a handbasket, right? The words and attitude were disabling. He gave no hope. I asked for peer groups, but I was told they don't do that. Neuroscience is essential for a timely, accurate diagnosis, but words and attitude can either disable or enable living life after diagnosis.
When my mom was diagnosed with cancer, we had all kinds of support and information and literature. People encouraged and helped us to be living a very beneficial life. When I was diagnosed with FTD and early onset Alzheimer's, I was giving nothing. Therefore, I had no encouragement. I wish a doctor had helped me as much as the doctors helped my mother when she was diagnosed with cancer.
When a doctor gave me my diagnosis, I was told absolutely nothing. I left their office feeling very fearful and very unhopeful as to what the future was going to bring to me. I had to start doing research and looking up literature, reading books, talking to people to get an idea of what the future was going to hold for me.
My current neurologist was sensitive and engaging as he gave me my diagnosis. He explained my diagnosis and told me that he would see me in 1 month. I left with optimism because I finally understood what was taking place in my brain. I was ready to move forward and face the challenge.
We're living beyond dementia, connecting our lives to help us survive. So we live our time to the fullest we can. We're living our lives with purpose, engaging our days to find better ways and bring this life to the fullest we can. We're working to shift the stigma from challenge to change, how people exchange, so we live our life to the fullest we can. So we live our life to the fullest we can.
That's always a very inspiring video. I got the chance to meet almost all of those individuals, so they're dear to my heart. Okay. I knew that was going to happen if I played that video first. Okay. So on our panel today, we have some wonderful individuals who have volunteered to come and tell you about their experiences with dementia. We absolutely appreciate every one of them. And I'm going to get started with talking about our Community Dementia Alliance. Our Community Dementia Alliance is a committee of individuals who have firsthand experience with dementia. They are individuals who are active care partners, individuals who remain advocates after their loved ones have passed, and individuals who are living with dementia. I have got to work with this great group of individuals for the past year now. They have done great things, from recognizing outstanding professional caregivers to talking on the radio about their experiences. They are already planning some new adventures to support each other and continue advocating in the future. If you are a member of the Community Dementia Alliance, and if you are able, please stand so that we can give you a round of applause, or hold your hand up. Some of them are not standing or holding their hand up, but we appreciate them. Okay, so on our panel today, I'm going to go ahead and allow them to, I'm going to allow Wendy to get things started so that they can introduce themselves. But we appreciate that Lois, Peter, Natalie, David, and Jan are all here today with us and have the courage to come up in front of you and talk about their experiences. Wendy Rubin is an active member of the Community Dementia Alliance and is here today to be the moderator for our panel. Is it on? It is on. Okay.
Hi. I'm Wendy Rubin, as Amanda just told you. We're honored to have these 5 very special individuals share their journeys living with dementia. Let's begin with each of you, one at a time, introducing yourself and telling us about your experience when you received your diagnosis. Lois Sauter.
I'm Lois Sauter. I was diagnosed 9 years ago, and one of my first thoughts was, I'm only in my late 50s. And wasn't sure what the future would hold. Would I be able to enjoy our children and grandchildren? The fear of not knowing them. My father went through it, so I knew what it was like because he just did not recognize us.
I'm Dr. Peter Delavet. I'm a physician. And when I first learned of this, in the words of my grandson, I said, no funny. That's exactly what I thought. And I developed epilepsy when I was 55, on 9/11. That's when I developed epilepsy. And I thought I was over-medicated, and my neurologist was exploring other possibilities, including some neuropsychological exams, which led to my diagnosis. So that's where it went from there.
I guess my first experience with dementia was when my mother, who had been a graduate of the New England Conservatory of Music and had been taught how to use your voice, how to not only sing, but just talk well, was unable to find her words. And this was back in the early 80s. And there was no such thing, excuse me, in those days as Alzheimer's. I mean, I think President Reagan was having trouble finding his words. Some of you may remember that. And we began to hear of Dr. Alzheimer's, who had done some research, apparently, on this problem. That's when we first heard the term Alzheimer's. It was because of this doctor. That's all I remember. And we never were able to help my mother. She finally went to her grave without ever being able to talk again. And she had been extremely capable and then wasn't able to find her words. And that's just all there was to it. She ended up passing away finally. And there was never any help for her. So I know what it's like for someone with dementia not to have the help that they need. But now the neurologists seem to know what Alzheimer's is, and they have wonderful medications. My goodness, I have dementia. I was diagnosed back in 2011. I obviously can find my words, you know. So what do I have that my mother didn't have? Well, I have wonderful medication, wonderful pills that have somehow happened in those years since her death, and my now having the same thing. It hasn't shut me up, so so that's my help. When I first received the diagnosis, well, just as I have been saying now, I wasn't surprised to find that I have Alzheimer's because, for one thing, having nursed my mother during those years, I don't know whether it runs in families or not, but I seem to have the same thing that she had been suffering from. Only, as you can see, it hasn't shut me up, and it did shut her up. So, I mean, she was totally mute until she passed away, and this was a terrible tragedy in our family. So that's my main experience that I can share, is that things are much better now. Go to your neurologist. If you're having trouble remembering things, go get medical help. And the medications are there.
Right. I agree with her. And I hope you'll agree with me. Okay. Let's see. My wife told me that I was first prescribed Aricept in 2006. I don't remember what Aricept is for, but it must be for something I have. I really don't remember. And the second question is, describe the experience you had when receiving your diagnosis. Well, just like Natalie, I was surprised. It's something that, that's the first thing I think, I was surprised. It's not anything that one would expect. It's, in fact, I didn't know much about it, to tell you the truth. So I was surprised. Should I go on to the next question, or is that it?
Is that all? Would you like to add what your feelings were? Were you surprised? Were you unhappy? You said you were surprised.
No, I wasn't happy, that's for sure. I was surprised.
I said unhappy, David.
And I didn't understand it. You know, I mean, coming from my background, university professor and all that kind of stuff. Now, of course, I can't remember anything. I'm not even sure why I'm here. But I'm willing to stay here. I'm a joker, by the way. What else do you want me to say?
David, would you like to pass the microphone to Jan, and she will then answer the question?
No, I would like to take this microphone home with me, because then everybody can hear me. I'm an entertainer. Now it's your turn.
Well, I'm Jan Gerkensmeyer, and I have Alzheimer's and dementia. And when I had my diagnosis, it was pretty horrific. I remember feeling dismayed, and I didn't know a lot about it. But as time went on, I got more and more familiar with it. And I still wish it weren't so, but it is so. I also know that people who don't have Alzheimer's sometimes act like they are being helpful. And I think you have to have it, well, basically, let's see. And I think if you have it, you're more likely to be helpful and understanding. Some people kind of get arrogant, like they don't know it all, even though they have never had it, or that they know it all. If you have Alzheimer's, you understand it in a way that no one else will. It's something no one ever wants, but it happens to you, and it is real. After my diagnosis, I started gathering up any books I could. The first one was written by a man who had Alzheimer's. It was called Alzheimer's Disease from the Inside Out by Richard Taylor. I read it and learned a lot. That started opening my eyes up. And I've been reading books and whatever I get my hands on ever since then. I have written poems about my experiences, and I need to start writing again. I write for myself and also so that I can share my experience with other people. When I went and did a couple of poetry presentations about Alzheimer's, or then I went and did that. My poems can be a little feisty. I wrote a poem that says, "So I have Alzheimer's and dementia. Who wants that?" I spend time with other people and get connected in some, this way.
Hold on there, because we're going to move on to the next question, and that is
The next question.
the next question.
Okay.
All right. The next question is for all of you, and this time we'll start with Jan. But the next question is, what do you do to give your life purpose and joy?
Well, currently I'm residing at Jill's house, and I'm not real happy about it, and I'm the youngest person there. And my dementia and Alzheimer's was from heredity. Yeah, I inherited that from my biological father. This is what was given to me. Yeah. Okay. Closer? Okay. I find purpose and joy from my interactions with other residents at Jill's house. I'm an outlier there because I'm the youngest, as I shared earlier. I am accepted by the other residents because I'm relating to them on all different levels. And I've been a caregiver for so long, since my prior career as an advanced practice psychiatric nurse, that it is easy for me to get into that mindset. I have a doctorate in nursing. I have even more to offer others there. I'm living with people who feel challenged, and I want to help them. They are grateful to have somebody there who can help. I feel empathetic towards other residents. It's hard to find purpose and joy sometimes. It's hard being separate from my family. I get hopeful when we plan unifying events for the residents beyond the ritual of day-to-day activities. I think there could be more of that. We need to find more sources of purpose and joy for all of the residents, not just me. We could become more connected with each other, and we do at times. Because the times when that happens, it is a very positive experience. It's helpful to know that there are people that would listen to you or support you. I think we're a lot closer to that than we were in years past.
And we'll move along to David now. Okay. And David, if you could tell us, what do you do to give your life purpose and joy besides being the comedian and humorist that you are?
I didn't hear what you just said.
Would you tell us what gives your life purpose and joy besides being the humorist and comedian that you are?
Well, you know, I agree with what she said. What's important to me, and it always has been, but it's and I keep doing it as much as I can, is to reach out to others. In other words, in some way, reaching out to others and being involved in supporting and helping others makes everything worthwhile, and that gives me hope. And I guess maybe that's one way of saying it. It gives me hope. I don't know. So what do? I do as much volunteer work as I can. Interestingly, I stopped volunteering, and I still do, but I volunteer at the Alzheimer's Center. They don't know about me, but I do it. I organized and still run I go every week. We used to call it the men's club, but women are part of it. So I like to call it the people's club, and I get them to all of us talk about family, what we do, and stuff like that. That's one of my volunteer activities. Another volunteer activity, my wife reminds me. She wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. I'm the editor. Oops, now can you hear me? Oh, great God. I'm the editor of a local free, that means you can all get it for free, newspaper called Safety Net. I don't know if you've ever seen Safety Net. We distribute it to all the stores and everything, and I bring it to the churches and so forth. And it's all about this community, Bloomington, and how programs reach out to others. For example, Chris was talking here today, right? Yeah, about the library? Oh, good. That's one of my problems, is my memory is going so quickly. I can't even remember what happened earlier today. Anyhow, the front page article in this recent Safety Net is about a program in the library. Wasn't that nice? Is Chris here? Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's a wonderful article. And it's about how the library reaches out to youngsters who don't who don't speak English that well. In other words, English is not their native language, and the library reaches out to them, and so I think it's important that we have a community like we have. Right now, you can all applaud with what I just said. Yes. And although it's difficult for me to hand over the microphone, I will hand it over to Natalie now, because it's Natalie's turn. Here you are, Natalie.
Well, there's one thing I forgot to mention, a very important thing that's happened to me. I live at Autumn Hills, which is a retirement center, and it's here in Bloomington. And they presented me with watercolors, paper, brushes, and the wherewithal to paint. And I'd never done that before in my life. I was 85 years old at this point. I'd never painted. And I find that I have some talent for it. Anyway, I've been doing a lot of it, and I should have mentioned that because it says, what do you do to give your life purpose and joy? Well, that's certainly something that I never did until I was 85 years old, and it's about time.
Well, one of the first things I do, one of the things that really brings me love and joy in my life is sitting right over there, a blonde lady. And I wake in every day and I kiss her good morning. I kiss her good morning. And certainly music brings me tremendous joy. And the Music in Memory program in this organization showed me how important music was to me. But I don't know, 10 years ago, something like that, 10 or 11 years ago, just kind of out of the blue, somebody asked me, would you like to barbershop sing? So I started barbershop singing, and in Pensacola, where we were living. And then all of a sudden, we were living up here, and then I was barbershop singing up here. And sadly, we are going to be leaving Bloomington and all these wonderful people here, and I will be barbershop singing in Santa Barbara. So, but I'm just asking my wife, are we going to be having that kind of same relationship with the Alzheimer's and dementia groups in Santa Barbara? And you know, if they don't have it, you know who's going to be starting it? But and then every night I kiss her goodnight and tell her I love her, and that's what, those things are the things that really bring me joy. And we're moving to Santa Barbara because that's where our daughter lives there, and our grandchildren live in California. Our son lives in San Jose, and I know that as much as I hate leaving here, and I really do hate leaving here, and my wife's the Hoosier. I'm the Hoosier by marriage. But, I mean, this town has grabbed me. And, but I know that that's where we need to be, because I know and, you know, that's the sad thing about this, is you don't know how long. You know, I'm 71, and I was kind of diagnosed when I was in 2015. I've only known about, had a diagnosis of this for, maybe a year or two. And I'm on 2 medications for my epilepsy, which I developed on 9/11. How many people get epilepsy on 9/11? Boom, boom, boom. My career as an anesthesiologist gone. But then I start a free clinic for people who have no insurance and very little money, and I've done that for 15 years. So I'm still practicing medicine in Pensacola at a free clinic that I started with one of my partners. Now we got 10 doctors, and we're helping people that don't have anything. So that brings me, I can't tell you how much joy that brings in my life when I walk into that little frame building and I go to a room I get a chart that's got a room number on it, and I go into that room and I see somebody who has nothing, and I can share my talents with them. And that gives me unbelievable joy. But, I don't know about everybody else here, but I think, it affects your emotions so much. It really does. And so those are the things that are going on with me right now.
Thank you, Peter.
Well, I just try to enjoy and take advantage of each day. Some are a lot harder than others. Also, watching our grandchildren grow up has been so amazing. In fact, in a couple weeks, our oldest will be graduating from high school. And I enjoy making cards. I don't know when's the last time we bought a card, but I make them for birthdays, anniversaries, and other events, and enjoy it. I can get lost in making the card.
Thank you, Lois. I'm going to go back to Jan. And the third question is, how can others best support you?
Okay. Don't want to be seen as a Jill House resident because I have done much more than that in my life. I feel I'm stymied a lot in terms of what I used to do. And I still think I have a lot to offer. But the question is, does someone at a place like Jill's House have anything to offer? And the answer is yes. I think there are several folks there who have a lot to offer, and they are doing it without being asked to. Just everybody. There's so many times people step up and give you support. I want to live my life fully. I can't a lot of the times. Since my diagnosis, there are a lot of limits. I would like to just be a person that's living in the world. I'd like to continue contributing because I do have a lot to offer at Jill's House, and I'm constantly helping and making things happen to make it a better day. It's kind of amazing. I would be better supported if I had more autonomy, more independence. I'm an enigma because I'm helping people constantly. For them, it feels like I'm being supportive. I'm an advanced practice psychiatric nurse with a doctorate degree, and that's usually appreciated. I'm eager to contribute. I help other residents because it's something that I can do. There needs to be some way to not humiliate and limit somebody's life experience because it's not necessary. What we need are people who are going to learn about what is going to be helpful versus being judged and limited. Just because a person has dementia doesn't mean they can't think or care or succeed in something. I know down the road it's going to get more and more challenging. But here I am. I feel pretty good, you know? And down the road, I may not feel so good. That kind of breaks my heart because I'm losing my good years. If I were going to support someone else who had Alzheimer's and dementia, I would get to know them. I would find out what's important to them. I would show some concrete examples of caring. The ultimate goal would be to give them more independence. That doesn't happen a lot. There are some unique people with dementia who have a lot to offer still, and they are contributing, and I want to encourage that. I see times that are missed when there are, or there could be opportunity for someone to feel that they have more control and that they are using it well, and they should get positive reinforcement for that.
Thank you. This question is, how can others support you? And my answer, right from the start, is by accepting me for who I am. And not doing everything for me. One of the things that I worry about as this thing progresses, I don't like to use the word disease, but I guess in some way it is. But it progresses, I know that. It's progressing all the time for all of us. I'm afraid of becoming separate from everything. So one of the things that I do, for me, it is good for me to interact with people and with people. And by the way, I want to thank you and everyone else who has organized this for us all. You have reached out to every one of us here. And I'm speaking for everyone sitting at this table. We all want to thank you. And if I could ask you to, I think you should applaud yourselves for being so wonderful. Okay? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, you can have the microphone back.
Is this where we are? Well, I certainly feel that I have been very well supported. I have everything I need from my family and also from the place where I live. It was at Autumn Hills that where they gave me the paints and the watercolors. I'd never done that. Didn't know I could. And so I certainly had some good support from them because that's how I spend my time. Every time they get the paints out anyway. I'm in there painting and I enjoy it. Let's see. My family just is very supportive of me and I can't thank them enough. I'm looking for something. I think I have all the medication I could possibly need because because I remember my mother, I mentioned her before, she couldn't talk at all. And she'd been, as I said, a graduate of the New England Conservatory of Music. She was trained in using her voice, and she was no longer able to use it because she died in the early to mid 80s, and they hadn't figured out what Alzheimer's or dementia was, I guess, and they had no help for her. And she was no longer able to talk or express herself. So, you know, I guess I've had an awful lot of help compared to the help that she was able to find.
Thank you, Natalie. Brevity. I would say the best way that people can support you is with love. 4 little letters, with love. And, you know, as I said before, I've kind of got a weird case here. I've got epilepsy. I take 2 medications for that. I've had neuropsychological exams. Well, who knows whether the medications that interfere with my cognition have any effect on all of that. And, you know, I got doctors telling me this, doctors telling me that. I'm a doctor that, you know, I know what they know. They know what I know. You know, we're telling each other, what do you know? I went to med school, you know, let me give you an anesthetic and then you can tell me. But I will tell you, the only way they're going to know for sure that I have Alzheimer's disease, when I die, I'm going to put this in my will. Nobody gets any money until after they can go back here. Right? See, I don't have any hair back there. They go back there, and I used to do, I did autopsies at some point in my life, and actually when I was in med school. And they just take a little bone flap off of there. They go in there, they do a brain biopsy. That's when they're going to know when we have Alzheimer's disease definitively. That is the only way they know that any of us have Alzheimer's disease, period, amen. It doesn't make any difference. You can do all the tests in the world. You can do neuropsychological exams. You can have every expert in the world. The only way they know is if you do a brain biopsy and you get brain tissue and you look at it under a microscope, then you know you have Alzheimer's disease. Other than that, you don't know. My dad had multi-infarct dementia. Hell, I don't know. Maybe I've got the same thing. You've got so many different causes for dementia. So all I want to do is be loved and love people. We'll take it from there.
Be patient. I know what I want to say, but it just sometimes does not come out right, so don't assume you know what I'm trying to say. And as far as decisions are very difficult. So, for example, say you want to take me out to eat. Let me know where ahead of time so I can look up the menu and decide what I want. And don't ask me too many places that you may want to take me. Just give me a couple so to narrow it down, or otherwise it's very frustrating.
Thank you, Lois. Thank all 5 of you for sharing your thoughts, your feelings, your journeys with such honesty and courage. There are 3 words that came from the 5-minute video we saw. And those are empower, enable, and encourage. And we all need to remember that with people living with dementia and everybody else. So thank you all.
Hey, why don't we give them a really big round of applause? We appreciate every one of you. Thank you to all of our panel members. You are truly making a difference in our lives by just telling us your experiences. We really do appreciate that. That helps us understand how to support you better.